No one in my family ever told me about the 20 years of allotted life. At least, not during my childhood. My parents lived as if that prophecy had never existed. They raised me, sent me to school, celebrated my birthday every single year. Yet in their eyes, there was always something else, a quiet urgency, like people who knew time was not on their side. I grew up quietly. I didn't cry much. I wasn't restless. While other children ran wild through the village, I preferred sitting alone, watching the rain fall, watching incense smoke drift on the wind, watching clouds crawl slowly across the sky. From a very young age, I could see things others could not. On the first night, I truly opened my eyes to the world. My father said I didn't cry. I only stared around the dark room, my gaze lingering for a long time on an empty corner. Then I laughed, but in that corner, there was nothing at all. When I was 5, I followed my father to the graveyard for the first time. He took me there at dawn, when mist still blanketed the graves. I walked slowly, without fear, almost with familiarity, as if I had been there countless times before. When we reached a newly raised grave, I suddenly stopped. "This uncle," I said softly, "hasn't gone far yet." My father froze. "What did you say?" I pointed at the damp mound of earth. "He's standing behind the tombstone." My father looked where I pointed. Behind the stone, there was only morning fog and weeds swaying in the wind. He said nothing, but that night he burned an extra stick of incense before the ancestral altar. Things like this began to happen more and more often. I could tell which household was about to have a funeral. I could tell which graves were heavy, which were empty. Sometimes at night, I would even tell my father where not to dig, because something is sleeping there. My father began to feel afraid, not of me, but of what walked beside me. One night, unable to endure it any longer, he asked my mother in a trembling voice, "Could it be that the boy isn't entirely human?" My mother burst into tears. "Don't say that." But she didn't dare deny it either. When I was 7, the gray-robed old man from years ago appeared again. No one knew where he came from. He simply stood before our gate one windy afternoon, staring straight at me. He called my name, Tran Long Sin. It was the first time I had ever heard my name spoken by a stranger. He sat down in front of me and asked many strange questions. Do you dream of dragons? Do you hear voices calling from beneath the earth? At night, do you ever see your shadow stretch longer than it should? I answered honestly, yes. The old man closed his eyes and sighed. As expected. He told my parents the dragon aura within him hasn't dissipated. The older he grows, the clearer it becomes. My father asked, his voice shaking, "Then what should we do?" The old man looked at me for a long time, his gaze filled with both pity and wariness. Hide it until it can no longer be hidden. Don't let him learn feng shui. Don't let him touch fate divination. The more he knows, the sooner he will die. Before leaving, the old man said one last thing. 20 years is not a curse. It is a term. I watched his figure disappear, a strange feeling rising in my chest, not fear but waiting. That dream began when I was 8. That night, there was no rain and no wind. The house lay in perfect silence, so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my chest. The moment I closed my eyes, I fell straight into sleep. No transition, no dreams. When I opened my eyes, I stood in total darkness. There was no ground beneath my feet, no sky above my head. Only darkness, thick as ink, rolling in endless layers. I didn't know whether I was standing or floating. I only knew something enormous surrounded me. Then I heard the sound of chains dragging, heavy, metallic, stone grinding against iron. The echo rolled through the black void. From the darkness, a massive head slowly emerged. A dragon. Not the kind painted in pictures. Its body stretched so far I couldn't see the end. Scales peeled away in patches, revealing deep fractures as if it were on the verge of shattering. Black chains wrapped tightly around its neck and body, pulled taut in all directions, pinning it to the void. The dragon turned its head to look at me. In those eyes, vast as lakes, was despair. It opened its mouth, but no sound came out. Still, I heard its voice directly in my mind. "I cannot leave." I didn't know why I wasn't afraid. I stepped closer and asked, "Who are you?" "I am what should have become a dragon," it answered, its voice broken, like wind howling through cracked stone. But the dragon veins were severed, the serpent bones shattered. I am left with only a fragment. I saw a massive crack in the center of its forehead, black smoke endlessly pouring out. "Why are you looking for me?" I asked. The dragon stared at me for a long time. "Because you carry something of mine." At that instant, pain exploded in my chest. A freezing current surged from my heart through my entire body, stealing my breath. The dragon opened its mouth. A silent roar surged forth, and from within it, dense black smoke shot straight toward me. I wanted to move. I couldn't. The smoke slammed into my chest. Screams erupted in my mind, hundreds of voices at once. I saw chaotic visions, earth splitting open, blood flowing, serpent bones shattering, lightning tearing the sky apart. Then, the dragon's head fell. There was no blood, only a terrifying emptiness spread through the void. The dragon's body collapsed into nothingness, shattering into countless fragments of light, dissolving like ash. I screamed and woke up. My body was drenched in sweat, my heart racing wildly. The room was dark, but I felt that something vital was missing. From that night on, I became constantly ill. No high fever, no clear disease. Just endless exhaustion, dullness of spirit. Some days I slept more than 10 hours and still felt barely awake. My mother took me to the hospital. The doctors found nothing. In the end, my father invited a ritual master from the region. The moment he stepped into the house, he stopped, stared at me, then took a full step back. "This child," he said slowly, "has lost a soul." My father's voice trembled. "Lost a soul?" The man nodded. 3 souls, 7 spirits. He is missing a crucial one. If it is not retrieved, he will not live long. My father asked, "Where did it go?" The ritual master looked toward the ancestral house, his face grave. It was detained by something that should not exist. Outside, the wind suddenly rose. Sitting on the bed, I clearly heard a faint sigh drifting up from deep within the earth, as if someone had just marked me. After that, no one in our house slept. My mother held me all night, her hands ice cold, trembling non-stop. My father sat before the ancestral altar, smoking one cigarette after another, ash covering the tiles. Lost one soul. Those 4 words were like a nail driven straight into his head. He questioned the ritual master for a long time, his voice hoarse. "Is there any way to call it back?" The man fell silent, then slowly shook his head. If a soul is held by ordinary ghosts, it can be redeemed. But this child's soul, he hesitated, glancing toward the ancestral house. It is detained by dragon aura. The room sank into deadly silence. Finally, the ritual master spoke again, his voice lowered. To retrieve it, one must descend into the dragon lair. But that is a place the living should never tread. My father sprang to his feet. I'll pay any price. The man looked at him, fear and pity mingled in his eyes. It isn't money, it's life. 3 days later, the soul-calling ritual was prepared, not inside the house, not in the fields, but at the collapsed foundation of the ancestral house, where the serpent skeleton had once lain. On the night of the ritual, clouds covered the moon. The entire village sank into thick darkness. No household lit a lamp, as if everyone had silently agreed, not to see, not to hear, not to know. I was laid in the center of the empty ground. Around me was a circle of talismans, drawn with cinnabar, incense ash, and rooster's blood. The 7 dragon sealing stakes still stood there, but now they were cracked, their tops darkened as if something had gnawed at them from within. The ritual master wore ash-gray robes, holding a bronze bell, muttering incantations I had never heard. Each ring of the bell tightened my chest, as if an invisible string were being yanked. My father stood behind me. Clenching his teeth, he held a small knife. If anything happens, don't turn back. The ritual master glanced at him and nodded. The ritual began. The bell rang faster. A freezing wind came from nowhere, carrying the smell of damp earth and something rank. The cinnabar on the ground began to bleed on its own. Suddenly, the ground beneath me trembled. Not like an earthquake, like something breathing. The ritual master shouted, "Tran Long Sin, where is your soul? Return to the body at once." The call echoed into the earth, rebounding as warped, overlapping sounds. Like many voices speaking at once, I opened my eyes. In that instant, I saw a dark fissure open beneath my back. It wasn't deep, but it was so black that light could not touch it. From the fissure, a hand of black smoke emerged. It had no clear form, just smoke shaped like a hand, but I knew. It was holding something that belonged to me. I tried to scream. No sound came out. My father rushed forward. Without hesitation, he slashed his palm open. Fresh blood dripped onto the ground, falling straight into the fissure. The moment the blood touched the earth, a deep roar thundered up from beneath. The smoky hand recoiled. The ritual master shouted, "Quick, exchange blood for soul. Don't hesitate." My father knelt, pressing his bloodied hand against my chest, his voice shaking but resolute. "Come back, my child." At that moment, something ice-cold surged back into my body. Pain tore through my chest, my heart clenched, and then suddenly, everything felt whole. I burst into tears. The cry was faint, but in that dark night, it rang with uncanny clarity. The wind stopped. The cinnabar ceased bleeding. The fissure closed. The ritual master collapsed to the ground, gasping, drenched in sweat, as if he had just crawled out of hell. He looked at my father, his voice hoarse. "The soul has returned." "But, my..." Father grabbed him tightly. "But what?" The man bowed his head. "The dragon aura has recorded a debt." "This child..." He looked up, terror filling his eyes. "From now on, he no longer belongs entirely to the human world." That night, my father lost half his palm. The wound never festered, never rotted, but it never fully healed. And as for me, from that day onward, every time my feet touched the ground, I felt as if the earth remembered me.